All right. Next question's from Henry. Did you guys see the Jake Fisher article? So, for those that might have missed it, Jake Fisher basically reported that, as we all know, the Pistons haven't selected a coach, and that there's potential that the search could be reopened. Looking at some of the playoff coaches that were fired. So, Mike Budenholzer. Who am I missing here, guys? Help me out. Nick Nurse, Monty Williams,
Doc Rivers,
Doc Rivers.
Nick Nurse, like you said.
There was also guys like Sam Cassell who have interviewed for the Philly job. Another guy they could potentially interview. So, I guess, what are your guys' initial thoughts? Because I think that amongst the fan base, people are concerned that this interview process has gone on for, has it been 4 or 5 weeks, maybe longer? And it feels like the 3 candidates that have been leading the way, they might not appeal to Tom Gores, and there's a bit of angst amongst the fan base that decision has been made. So what are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I'm pretty full steam ahead on Monty. I'm obviously a little biased coming from the Suns' perspective, but I think that he's exactly what Detroit needs as far as someone that can come in and make sure that the young guys stay on the right path to get to where they need to be in their development arc. And this is the case with the Suns, he's maybe not the guy to take you to the top, but he's the guy that can really ferment whether you're going to be a good organization or not.
Yeah, so my thoughts on just the article in general. I mean, it seemed very speculative, the reasons why we're still waiting, right? I mean, it was thrown out that maybe Tom Gores just wasn't impressed with anyone. Maybe there's internal discussions. Maybe there's debate. Maybe they do really want to go after a guy like Monty Williams. I know that report came out that they thought that getting Victor would really strengthen their case. I don't know, because of how speculative all the reporting's been since we've learned that there were 3 candidates meeting with the owner. It feels to me like there's something else going on that we're just not privy to. Whether that's they've been trying to negotiate like contract terms with 2 or 3 guys and not getting anywhere, or maybe they have been having conversations with a guy like Monty Williams and he just wants to take a year off and they're trying to convince him. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know for sure if there is anything. It just seems like so much has been up in the air that there's likely something we're missing and we just don't have access to that might come out later. I don't know. That's just my gut feeling on it.
Yeah, I think that definitely, I'm with you. Like, my gut feel sort of tends to be that there's some sort of debate going on. I think it's been well documented that Troy is a massive fan of Kevin Ollie, and there might not be there clearly isn't full alignment in the front office with that hire, because I feel like it probably would have happened by now. But
maybe he's holding out.
It is a little bit.
There's so much we don't know.
No, exactly, Wes. And I think, there's obviously, there's so much we don't know, but it would be, I think I would start getting a little bit concerned if we go another couple of weeks and there's still nothing. I think you really need to have a coach. Just from a fan's point of view, I'd be starting to get a bit anxious if there's no coach and we're in the final few weeks before the actual draft night. But that's just me as a fan. I'm not sure internally if that actually has much impact.
I wonder too if the draft has any indication as far as like with the Ollie thing and potentially being able to get a Thompson twin and that connection with Ollie coming from Overtime Elite recently. I am not 100% sure whether I'm thinking that, Ollie to the Pistons would be better for a Thompson or worse for a Thompson. I think that maybe a change of coaching is what they need coming into the NBA, just so that it feels like a different thing, just from a psychological point of view. But yeah, I wonder if there's any sort of connection between how Weaver feels about the Thompsons and how he feels about Ollie as a candidate.
For sure.
Absolutely. The only
We've
thing I
seen
was going to add was like absolute worst case scenario, right? You need a coach before the draft because your coach, like it or not, has a lot of input on who you pick. Always. They always like they're the person dealing with that player 24/7, right? The coach has a lot of impact on who gets picked. So, if you don't have one before draft night, that's kind of a problem. That's kind of a big
and
problem.
you, yeah,
So,
and you would
worst case
like
scenario, you have to avoid that.
yeah, because you would like to have your coach's input as well, because they're the one drawing up the game plan. They're the ones figuring out rotations. So even if the coach doesn't have the absolute ultimate say, they're a key piece in making a decision. So, yeah, I guess we'll just wait and see like we have been. But on to the next question from Cade World. With the news on Miller having bad interviews, do you think there's a chance he falls? And if so, do the Pistons need to take him? So I haven't actually heard about the interview stuff. So if someone has, could they enlighten me? If not, just move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll jump in for you. So there was I forget who reported it. Someone had just mentioned that he interviewed poorly and speculated that he may be slightly out of shape going into workouts, which is conflicting to, I believe, what Woj had recently reported, saying that he had interviewed pretty well. One of those two reports, in all likelihood, is gamesmanship from some organization. Whichever one it is your guess is as good as mine. But to answer the question outside of that, because I can't really judge whether he is having good or bad interviews. Yeah, it was from Draft Express. That's where both of them were coming from. That's right. Thank you, Camille. So outside of the reports, because I'm not sure which one's legit, the positive or the negative, and I don't think we'll ever know. I think there is a chance that he falls. I just do. I mean, he's not the most incredible athlete. There are some interesting numbers when you start trying to weigh his performances against, good and bad defenses. Um, I don't think it's likely. I think Jack, we might have talked, and I think I said maybe 10 to 15% chance. But I probably would have said the same thing about Jaden Ivey at this time last year too. So anything can happen. If any of the top three guys are going to fall, I think it's Brandon Miller. I don't think it's likely, but he's the guy that would fall.
Yeah, I personally am not the highest on Brandon. I think it's a little bit weird to think of him having the March Madness that he had, and I know there was the injuries going on as well, but I just think it would be a little weird to leave that March Madness where he played so poorly and then for him to be a top 3 pick. I know he was SEC Player of the Year. I know he had 40-point games and all these high-scoring point games over the regular season, but just to leave the season with such a bad taste in the mouth when Alabama seemed like they could have had such an easy path to the final. I just don't know that, that's the guy that I want to put my top 3, top 4 pick into, which could leave him falling to 5, which, like I said earlier, if any of the top 4 fall to 5, you got to take them.
Yeah. Damon, you're right. We need to pitch this out to everyone in the world that he should definitely fall to 5 for no other reasons than genuine ones, for sure.
I'm actually just intrigued to get your thoughts, Damon, on we hear a lot about Brandon Miller's offense, but I think people have just assumed he's a really good defender just because of his measurables, his size. What is he like as a defender?
I think you can take a little bit of what he does offensively and have it translate over to the defense, just in terms of him being more inclined to work on the perimeter. His feet are really good for a 6'9" wing on offense, and that translates to defense as well. He moves better than most 6'9" defenders, and the contact aversion, unfortunately, also translates over a little bit where he's not as good defending the rim. So if you have really good backline support, then he's a great defender to have. But other than that, it's a little questionable at this point for me.
Yeah, he needs to put on weight, doesn't he? I mean, he's pretty thin. I just looking at his build, I mean, I think he's got room. But like in terms of the way that he looks, not the way that he moves, he does kind of remind me of a young Jason Tatum, just rail thin, but lots of room to add on some functional strength and, see if he could take it from there. I think Tatum could jump a little bit higher though than Miller can. So that's not a perfect comp at all.